Good afternoon. It is January 26th, and we are going to call the Public Works Committee meeting to order. I am Councilmember Kiki Miller, and I have with me the newly elected Councilmember Kenny Gabriel and the newly appointed Councilmember Dan Scheckler. So the first item up today is going to be from our wastewater director, Mike Anderson, on the approval of an agreement authorizing wastewater services for 7 single-family residential parcels.
Hi there. Thank you for having me this afternoon. I'm going to give a quick introduction, but really it's going to be a presentation by the people who are making this request. So let me sort of explain to you what it is that we're doing. As you're aware, the City of Coeur d'Alene has a wastewater service that is available only to people within the City of Coeur d'Alene. There is a wastewater policy, number 718, that defines this. It says it is only allowed to City of Coeur d'Alene, within the City of Coeur d'Alene limits, with the exception of if council should approve service outside the city. So that's what we're here to discuss today. The area where we are discussing, I apologize, I'll have a better map for you when we meet in front of council, but the area that we're discussing is by the Ponderosa Springs Golf Course. Up on this hill here, there is there's a community that utilizes, a portion of the community utilizes a shared drain field. So they're on septic, but rather than having their own individual drain fields, they have a shared community drain field, which is failing. I will let them go into a little bit more detail about what's going on up there, but the reason for just wanting to connect to city sewer is because of that failed drain field and the lack of options to deal with it. So right now it's not a really healthy environmental situation for certain. They do not have the ability to annex into the city because the city does not abut them. We do have along, isn't it French Gulch Road, not Fernand Hill Drive? Yes. Yes, along French Gulch Road, ignore what it says there. We do have city sewer, and that is outside the city, but there is sewer nearby. And we've been in discussions with them on this for probably several years now, so it's probably not the first time you've heard it. But as I mentioned, currently the city boundaries, I'll have a better map up again that shows city limits, but city limits are over here like on Lilly and 23rd in that area. So it's going to take a while for city to get there unless, say, the golf course were to annex in or something like that. We have an agreement in your packet that you can see, and that agreement stipulates, among other things, that only these 7 properties can connect to this. I think there's in total 10 properties that are on the French Gulch Sewer or French Gulch Drainfield Association. 3 of those have no buildings on them. So we wouldn't allow those 3 parcels to connect to us. We're looking only to help out, as a good neighbor agreement, to help out those houses that, those homes that are currently utilizing this and have really no other option. Okay, so with that, I would like to introduce Tim Fink and Eric Elam. They're with representing the French Gulch Drainfield Association, and they would fill you in on some of the color of what's going on. And of course, I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have regarding the perspective on this. Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, pleasure.
Thanks, Mike. Hello, Council. Thanks for taking the time to meet with us today. As he mentioned, I'm Tim Fink. I'm the president of the French Gulch Drainfield Association, and this is Eric. He's been our engineer helping us with the whole project. There we go. So kind of the executive summary here. As he mentioned, the problem, a legally permitted community drain field has failed. We do have some evidence from this from PhD, DEQ. We've done a lot of conversations with all of them. There is surfacing effluent water, and there's a water quality risk. The solution that we're kind of proposing here is connect the affected properties to the city's wastewater system that's on French Gulch, which he kind of mentioned on the map there. And then the decision requested here again is to approve a connection outside the city limits. Homeowners will pay connection, ongoing fees, construction costs, all of that. There's no cost to the city here. So as he mentioned, project location is right here. It's close to the city limits, and this green line is where the city limits are. So kind of speaking again to what Mike was saying right there. This drain field is right down here during what's listed as a very high risk or sensitive area for aquifer recharge area. It's second highest on the list of priorities that they have. The affected properties right here. So in total right now, there's 10 lots that are on that vested rights within the drain field. 7 of those homes are currently hooked up right now using the failed drain field system. These white ones are all of the empty lots that are on there as well. Oh, one other thing to mention on this is just kind of a little bit of background. There are some new homeowners that had just recently, within the past couple of years, purchased their home. There was no disclosure that there was any kind of drain field failed system or anything like that when they were purchasing these homes. So to then find that out, and the cost, which we'll get into, it's pretty substantial for a lot of these homeowners, especially being blindsided after they just purchased a new home. System background, so 1980s, that's when the French Gulch Drainfield Association was established. It was originally built for 35 homes. Later, after the fact, they realized it's not even close to what it should have been built for. 1983, the first member was connected, which is actually Steve Meyer. He's our vice president. In 2007, there were early warnings of some issues going on. This marked the beginning of escalating problems that would eventually just overwhelm the system. So present day today, again, we do have some letters from DEQ PhD saying this is failed, and this is just kind of a picture showcasing some of the effluent that is surfacing on the ground in those highly sensitive areas for the aquifer. Failure verified. So Panhandle Health PhD has verified the community drain field has failed. There's effluent surfacing on the ground, and this condition creates a public health and water quality concern, safety issue. This is their letter. In the appendix, we have these full letters also for you to view in detail. So just kind of going over some of the water quality risk. This is a bit more zoomed in area of that sensitive area. This is a picture of the soil types. This right here drains in that sensitive area. This is all basalt up here, so it makes the area very, very difficult for drain field systems. And then this is just a picture showcasing where some of the wells are. So very close in proximity. When this contaminant gets into the aquifer, these are where they're pulling from that aquifer. The French Gulch Creek is within 100 feet roughly of the drain field where it is currently right now. Multiple streams run through all of the site, right next to homes and all of that, which is again another reason why it's a tough place for everyone. Another zoomed in map just showing that sensitive area. This is right where the drain field is. Why options on site, or why on-site options are not feasible. Site constraints, steep hillside terrain, and shallow basalt bedrock, which was one of the earlier pictures I mentioned. Multiple streams, surface water proximity, compact parcels with limited suitable drain field area. And then the DEQs said topography, soil capacity, groundwater conditions, and surface water setbacks, which is typically that 1,000-foot area that they have. Another picture here just explaining more of the soil. So this green area, this is where most of the homes are, which is that bedrock. And then where the drain field is currently located is the sand and gravel, which is in that highly sensitive area, and it is within that 1,000-foot zone. The options reviewed by PhD was to repair or replace existing drain field in the original location. Per PhD, that is not possible. Option 2 was install a new central community system in an alternative location. Again, not suitable. There were no suitable areas identified that meet regulatory requirements. Individual on-site systems, so we would have one on each individual parcel. Again, not feasible due to all the things we've mentioned earlier. Option 4 was to connect to the city wastewater system, which they determined is the best long-term solution for property owners, water quality, pretty much the whole area. And then here's just a quote. Connection to the city of Coeur d'Alene municipal sewer system represents the best long-term option for the affected property owners and surrounding water quality. Here's just one example of a site evaluation that was done on one of the 5 parcels by PhD, and basically they're just stating that this property appears unsuitable for a subsurface sewage disposal system. This dwelling must remain connected to the French Gulch community sewer system, which we know has failed and also is not a good option. So some of the recommendation and support we've gotten from PhD. PhD recommends, again, we've mentioned that quote, the Coeur d'Alene tribe, we find it important to support the efforts of the association in requesting that the city grant the approval to connect. And then DEQ has expressed support for pursuing municipal connection as a protective long-term remedy. In one of the recent City of Coeur d'Alene adopted its 2022 and 2024 comprehensive plan, which was basically just a land acknowledgement to the Coeur d'Alene tribe. And specifically, we want to just point out 2 of their values, which was stewardship, caring responsibly for land and water, and guardianship, protecting natural resources, water quality for future generations. So we just want to point back to those of, these are 2 pillars of the tribe that we're trying to help out with. Sewer service outside city limits confirmed. So these are kind of some precedents that we've seen historically in the past. The Fernan Village in the 1970s, large area receiving city sewer outside the city limits. The city of Dalton Gardens, specifically the commercial section. I know there's a few residential homes in that area, but mostly just a commercial section up there. And then just recently in 2024, on Murphy Road, Christina Roy, there was an approved written agreement that was policy 718, which Mike was mentioning earlier. Why these matter for our request: confirms there is policy pathway historical practice for service outside the city limits, shows the city has done this for both legacy areas and recent additions, and frames our request as fitting within existing mechanism. It's not it's not new that hasn't been done before. And then here's some specific examples for that Murphy Road situation here. Outside the city limits, it doesn't necessarily abut directly to the boundary. It's close to the boundary of the city limits. And it's very close to this French Gulch Road, or that sewer that he was mentioning. The annexation is not feasible. The city sewer main is nearby. There's that nearby collector that goes up to Fernan Hill Village. It's a policy 718 hardship. There is no main extension required from the city, so this would all be private up to that manhole that's already there, and then no city capital costs. So no cost to the city. We'll be doing all the construction and everything to get it connected into that same spot. And then there's obviously capitalization fees that each member will be paying, plus the fee revenue that's ongoing for that service. So this confirms, obviously the same approval out of city that we're asking here. Demonstrates the city preference for situations that don't require the city to extend and maintain new mains and all of that. And then similar corridor, so these homes were all in a similar area where they all had issues with the same thing that we're discussing. And then just real quickly, some other homes that had similar issues that we had, but were directly on city lines so they could annex, is these 2 properties here. There was a Fernan Hill Road and then Brown annexation. They had the same problem, but they were right on the city limits line, so they could easily be annexed. Now I will hand it over to Eric. He's going to kind of talk about the connection to the city and kind of go over some of the engineering and our plans behind it.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. So this has been a very difficult project to find even the route, anything to access that sewer manhole down here at French Gulch and Galena Drive. So ultimately, the path that we chose, that we were in contact with the Highway District, and they have been fighting for years to get the funding to chip and seal and repair these roads. And their direction to us was absolutely no harm to those roads. So that definitely affected the cost of this project and how we go about it. So we have a path. We're going to be boring under the road in this area, and we will be boring underneath the creek, so we won't be doing any harm there either. And then along the way, we're just going off the shoulder of the road. And the property owners here and here are amongst us today, and we will be essentially just having a route through their property. And this largely follows the sewer lines that are out there now. We had looked, if we come over here, so Lily Drive is going to be annexed, or is annexed in. However, that project isn't going to be coming through for another couple of years, so it's just outside of the time window for this project. And we've looked through other properties, different options, but it's just there is no real good slam dunk route through this, so it's going to be a long, slow, expensive one. But we've looked into a lot of it, so excuse me for rambling. So this is kind of the proposal of what we're doing. Grinder stations at each residence. The city sewer won't accept septic tank effluent, which is what's there now. Causes quite a lot of problems when you accept effluent into a sewage system. So we're converting to grinder systems to meet that requirement. Also, kind of another major one down here in French Gulch Road, we'll be adding a second manhole. And the sewer main that's connecting the existing and the proposed, that's going to be where the individual services are connected into, again, to meet with the sewer district's requirements. So there will be 7 to 10 effluent lines, pressure lines going through there, 2 horsepower grinders. And so this is a big one. It's I think the punchline is about $75,000, if not more, to each individual homeowner. It's well, maybe Tim can speak more into that one. Yeah, and obviously so one thing I'd like to point out is that according to Panhandle Health and Department of Environmental Quality, that these 3 lots they have vested rights to hook up into this property or into the sewer system, but that doesn't exactly go along with the city's requirements. So it's kind of these lots don't have any other options, and by including them, it will reduce the financial burden on the homes that are there. So I guess just something to consider along the way. I'll give this back to Tim to discuss more of the costs.
Yeah, thank you. So as we were mentioning on the Murphy Road that was just recently approved, there probably was other options, it seems like, from the meeting that was there, but they were extremely expensive. And so they allowed a connection to the city to hopefully alleviate some of that cost. Now, with what we have going on, there really isn't any option. This is kind of all we have. And as you can see, it's not for cost. This is going to be a very significant cost to each of the homeowners. The $75K per household was the last cost that we had gotten. It seems from some of the estimates, they're saying it's probably going to be north of that. So this is the best guess we have right now. This 244 is the total construction cost. And then at each home, we've got to do kind of a new holding tank, grinder, pump, capitalization fees, all of that. So this is a cost per home, and then they had an issue with the well in the past. And then again, estimated costs are roughly $75,000 per household with the 7. They could drop to around $45,000 per household if we allow those 3 additional empty lots to join. So last final statement, respectfully requesting the city to approve to connect to the municipal wastewater system to protect public health and regional water quality. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. One quick question here. Eric, I didn't get a last name for you, and what firm are you with?
Oh, Eric Elam, ILLUM, and I'm with Olson Engineering, OLSON.
Thank you. Questions?
Madam Chair, yes. For Eric,
Yes.
and I read this, and I don't recall what it was. When was the system originally approved by Panhandle Health?
The system back in the 80s, I believe 83.
Remember I heard 84, is that what I heard?
Yeah.
Okay, and how different has I mean, you would know this well, the requirements then versus requirements now? I mean, because the creek's been in the same place, so
Exactly.
was there any big changes to that?
So first of all, the minimum setback is 100 feet from surface water, depending on soil. So it could be up to 125, 150, so we're well within that. Also, there would be pre-treatment requirements, being that it is in a sensitive area. Right now, none of this effluent is being treated, apart from the primary in the septic tank. When I was out there last year in January, there was a 15, 20 gallons per minute just flowing out onto the ground. It was quite jarring to see.
Madam Chair, two more if I could?
Please.
Thank you. Also, Eric, for you too, how difficult is it to get permits to bore under a creek?
Surprisingly not difficult.
Would be, wouldn't you?
We've been in contact with the Army Corps of Engineers. It's a non-navigable, and we're maintaining 4 feet below. This is something that we've done fairly regularly, and it avoids all of the uncomfortable permits that we don't want to get.
Fair enough. And for Mike, if I could?
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Anderson?
Of course.
So I heard 7, and then I heard 10, right?
Right.
And so that's one question. The second part of that question is, we tend to be kind of branded as bad guys if we don't approve something. And I'm not talking about this. I'm thrilled we have the ability to help. But where does it stop?
Right, good questions. So I would suggest it stops at 7, not 10. I know it puts a hardship on these the people who have to pay for it, but we're looking to help with the hardship that they currently have with their effluent. Right now, there's no effluent coming from those other 3 parcels, so I'm really not looking to help out to add 3 more parcels outside the city on our sewer system when it's not needed. They clearly don't need wastewater services because there's nothing there right now. So that's why I'm suggesting 7 parcels. Also, to get into the weeds a little bit here, normally, as was mentioned, when somebody abuts up to the city, we say, okay, come on, annex in, we're going to send sewer to, you can connect to our sewer, we're going to require you to install sewer to and through, so we don't exclude anybody, correct? This is a little bit different than that, so we're not making them install sewer to and through because they're not in the city. Like I mentioned before, when they can't annex into the city, they will, and then they will be required to extend sewer to and through. So the infrastructure of the sewer is going to change. That'll have to be engineered out at that point. But the sewer will have to be extended to and through. This wouldn't be allowed if they were within the city.
And if the other 3 empty parcels, in essence, are they allowed, no one's allowed to hook up to the current system, if the new, correct? If those 3 get built upon, they can't connect to a system that's not working.
Correct. Yes.
So in essence, those three properties are kind of non-buildable?
As it stands right now, yes. Yes, they have, I mean, non-buildable as long as they want sewer, which I don't know why you would want a
Well, that
structure
kinda
without
helps a
sewer.
little, doesn't it? I understand. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, I've got some follow-ups on that one too, but any from you?
With the annexation, it said that it would be annexed in, once the property meets the city's annexation requirements. Is the only requirement that has to be met that there be a contiguous connection to the city?
That's the most obvious one. I know that one of the issues with the Christina Roy property, why that was not annexed in, was fire service. They didn't have enough water pressure to support a hydrant. That wouldn't be an issue here, I don't think. I'd probably lean on Councilman Gabriel for that, but because they're on city water, I can't imagine that would be an issue in this instance. So yeah, as far as I know, the only real hiccup in all of it is connectivity to city boundaries.
So there's no time limit on when they would have to annex because it's dependent upon properties adjoining them to basically connect?
Correct. There is a time limit on when these properties must connect to the city sewer, because I didn't want this to be sitting out there for 10 years and oh, no, yeah, you've got the right to connect to city sewer anytime you want. No, there was that, we it's basically this calendar year, more or less, or this calendar's buildable year. It's September 30th of 2026. They must connect up. But as far as connect up to the sewer, annexing into the city, yeah, there's no sunset date on that.
I heard things like the pipes would be bored underneath the creek and perhaps underneath a road. Who would be, if that's land isn't owned by the homeowners, who's responsible to maintain that portion of the pipes?
Not the city. I don't know who, but it's not us. Okay. We have current infrastructure in that road. I'd love to show you, but like I mentioned, this is a bit of a dry run. I apologize. I'll I'll include some of that in our presentation to council if you decide to send it to council. But there is a manhole in French Gulch Road that's existing that we're already maintaining, whether it's flushing or jetting or inspecting. We're already maintaining that line, and we have the right to do so. Once all this sewer connects up to that, we'll just maintain it as we always did. Everything upstream of that would not be the city's responsibility. If there's an idea on who's going to maintain it, I don't know, but not.
I think it would be up for the association to maintain that.
Can you come closer to the podium? So
sorry.
that'd be great.
So the Drainfield Association would be responsible to maintain that, everything up to the existing manhole in Galena and French Gulch.
Then I guess I have a question for Mr. Adams. Would something to that effect need to be in the agreement?
It is in the agreement that's in the packet on page, I guess it's labeled as 15 in the packet, under 8, liability and indemnification. Second paragraph, all wastewater infrastructure up to the point of connection to the city system at manhole in French Gulch Road are considered private, and construction and maintenance of this infrastructure will be the responsibility of the property owners.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Adams. I guess another question for you, Mr. Adams. The hardship identified by the community seems to be that we don't have sewer, and it's going to cost a certain amount of money to upgrade this, and it would cause us less hardship if we shared it with the 3 lots that aren't developed yet. Is that a hardship cognizable under how we evaluate this that we could consider, or not?
Well, I think you can always consider any aspect of the project, whether it's a hardship or not, including the expense involved. I think the underlying hardship is that without connecting to city sewer, these properties basically would not be habitable because they would have no septic either. So for the seven properties, it's a clear hardship. For the other 3, or for the 7, considering how much, certainly the city can consider that, whether that's a hardship or not.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
I've just got a few things, and I feel like there were a couple slides missing from the packet that I have, so you might want to review that with the clerk before this goes to council to make sure they're all included. A couple things I had, and I think we might all be touching on the same thing. It doesn't make sense to not connect those 3 vacant lots at the same time. I'm assuming there's going to be engineering and one contractor is probably going to put all of this in. So to deem those 3 lots unbuildable and having each one of those property owners have to go back when they do decide to build and tear the ground up again and reconnect to this system, I feel like that kind of doesn't make sense. Further to that, is this association that exists now going to move into this management of the exact same association, going to move into the management of this new connected sewer systems?
Yeah, so it would be a very similar association, if not the same one. We would have to get new agreements for everything. Obviously, it's a far different system than what it was before. There should be very minimal ongoing cost as related to or compared to what there was before with the drain field. There's a lot more ongoing with a drain field, but we would have to have some sort of active association with new agreements under whatever the new engineering plan
But there will
is
be
and
one.
what that looks like, yeah.
And those 3 lots will be part of it?
They would be. We would like for all 10 lots to be a part of it.
Okay.
I would note that the current agreement only mentions those 7 lots, and I don't know if there's an agreement by the owners of those 3 lots to pay that expense, so that would be a question as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think it just maybe is something that should be addressed. Like, it just seems very, a little vague and kind of not making sense. So maybe we can do a little more work on that piece. The other thing is, I heard someone say that there was not disclosure to some of the recent properties that sold, that there was a failed drain system. My mind says there's probably some sort of litigation going on, or will be, with those properties over that situation. And Randy, maybe you can clear this one up. Does that put the city in the middle of any of that? Should that occur?
It shouldn't be an issue for the city. That would be an issue for the purchaser against the seller.
Okay. So we're out of that one. I think that's all I had. Anything else?
Madam Chair, I just had another follow-up, if I
Okay.
may. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. The 3 lots that are not built yet, if the deadline here is September of 2026 that they have to be connected, can they be connected, or all of that infrastructure be put in place before September without there being a house on site?
Yes, if they were allowed to join in, then we would just install the pipes. They're ready for a hookup when they're ready to install and build.
Okay, thank you.
Anything
Nothing
else? We will have that go to full council with a good dry run, gentlemen. Got some things ironed out. Mike, I know on that map it said Fernand Hill Road, and that's actually French Gulch, so I don't know where that came from, but it's not Fernand Hill Road, so you might want to not use that map. So,
Those Google Maps?
My intention was to pawn the presentation off, but clearly I have to do a little bit, we'll get something in there so you're aware of city's infrastructure, city boundaries, things like that, to make it a little clearer for you.
okay, so we'll move this on to council.
Was the committee going to take a motion or a vote on this?
Do we want to? Do we need to?
Well, if you want to make a recommendation to council.
Madam Chair, I move to recommend that council approve the agreement authorizing a wastewater services to 7 or 10 existing single-family residential parcels to be determined by council outside the city limits, subject to a required connection deadline and future annexation agreement.
Do we have a second?
I will second it with the caveat that I want to send it, the 7 to 10 is something I think the full council needs to discuss.
Great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, we will do that. That's our motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2 today is the approval of a repeal of Chapter 2.66, the Coeur d'Alene Municipal Code Parking Commission, and approval of the amendments to Municipal Code 4.15.040. And Troy Tymason.
Good afternoon, council members. Thank you. We'll move from wastewater to parking, a myriad of topics. I'd like to say that the city's done so well, we don't have a need for the parking commission, just to frame this. And let me give you some background. We are seeking to repeal that section of City Code 2.66. So our parking commission was established in 2005 by ordinance. Its functions were to analyze parking needs throughout the city, educate the public on the availability, value, location, serve as a forum in which to address items and concerns, ensure parking is managed in a manner that is user-friendly, attractive, and maintains the value, and address issues that arise regarding enforcement of parking ordinances, and address the appeals process, keep the council informed on parking issues, make recommendations to council, prepare the policies and procedures. City administrator has been in charge of that, or the finance director in days gone by. Thankfully, technology has helped out quite a bit along this way. We used to have a piece of equipment that was quite expensive sitting out in parking lots, and now thanks to our smartphones, those are going away, which has really expedited the process. And in the event that you've paid for an extra hour and you happen to be approaching the end of your term on that, you get a little friendly reminder that says, would you like to extend it? And you don't have to go back to the machine in the parking lot. So, as the city administrator, we have been struggling for the last couple years to even get a quorum to take any action during our parking commission. It mentions in the staff report that we really haven't approved minutes in well over a year and a half. So, good people, not a lot of meaningful topic items, mainly because we've diversed the way in which we get parking done. We've worked with the Downtown Association and Diamond Parking that's had the contract since 2003. They have a couple more years left on the contract with the extensions. So again, we have a lot of areas in town that have been looked at. My suggestion to you is that we've been handling the appeals. You haven't heard too much about those. Diamond has been working with us. Our Downtown Association is in the downtown area. They help us with the parking garage. There are no longer gates at your parking garage over on the corner of 3rd and Coeur d'Alene Avenue. That has been an awesome improvement because we no longer have people that are stuck either in or trying to get out and not having paid and gone through them. So having lived almost all of the things I'm speaking to, we're in a much better state of parking. I would suggest to you, council members, that someday in the very near future, we'll need to continue to study downtown parking and what is happening. It's been a while since we've invested in an outside consultant. It was 2016, the last time we look at our parking. It looks at how many lots are owned by the private sector, how many are owned by the public sector. We could spend money and put at our Coeur d'Alene Avenue parking garage or at the McEwen parking, how many spaces are available with technology and things like that that would notify people if there's spaces available. So basically, we have done such a good job, council members, that we've worked ourselves out of needing a parking commission, in my opinion. So the public has come forward and said we have some antiquated language in our code that we'd like to clean up with this. So the amendment clarifies the payment of hourly fee for parking. You can do that on your phone now. Possession of a monthly permit, that's pretty much all electronic now. It spoke to the fact of when you had to acquire that. We don't really mind when you acquire it, just so you do acquire it. We've got the city hall and library parking lots that have the ways in which we take care of those parking situations. Waivers or alteration of fees may be approved by the city administrator or designee. Again, displaying the permit would no longer be required because we do it electronically. We use your plate number, much more efficient. People don't lose the electronic information that we have to monitor it, and they don't have to put it in the window. More importantly, they can't move that little permit around, so we got more effective in that. And then the amendment would make it clear that a parking permit, hourly or monthly, is required at all times, including weekends and after 6 o'clock, which is consistent with the signage that we have in our parking facilities. And then the deadline for paying should be removed. You can pay anytime, you can pay ahead, requiring only the payment be made in advance. So a couple other housekeeping changes since we're bringing this forward. We had all these parking commissioners with no compensation. We didn't even really buy them lunch. The commission has no budget in itself. Our parking fund is a fee for service, so those are under your jurisdiction for the budget side of that. Again, we have great partners in this, and there will be more parking issues, unfortunately, I'll have to admit. However, again, we've had a year and a half of not having a quorum. We were trying to approve minutes for a year, and we still never got them approved. We have no parking commission meetings coming forward, so in the spirit of having some fun, the Downtown Association's done a great job. Technology's helped out. Diamond Parking has a really solid manager. That always helps us get things done and work on both sides of the equation. Almost 2 years of not having a parking commission meeting. If I may have the liberty, we have a brand-new council member. Thank you. He was assigned to the parking commission. In the very first public works meeting he has, we're trying to take the parking commission down just to free up his day, just to have some fun, council member. So I would stand for any questions you might have. Our awesome city attorney has worked through all those amendments that are in there that keep all the code up and running.
Thank you. Mr. Tymason, questions?
Madam Chair, thank you. So you gave us some upsides. Is there any downsides to this?
Always, council member. I would say the public input isn't quite as clean without having a parking commission on issues. But if you go back to the date when this started, there was this great school called North Idaho College. They did not have the parking that they now have available on campus. I have a municipal services director sitting here that spent a lot of time working through the permit process that now works. North Idaho College gained ground, they gained parking lots. We spent a lot of time with dealing with students that were not parking legally down there and the enforcement. Jump to McEwen. Those pay boxes that we had outside were incredible technology. They were running almost $18,000 a piece. Thankfully, the smartphones got smarter, the technology got better. Now all of a sudden we don't have that. Probably 2010, 2011, we had gates. We had people manning the gates down at McEwen. So parking study comes to mind as something that will come from the Downtown Association. I think that can be looked at as a potential contract. Diamond is able to assist with it. I think the parking garage is working phenomenally well. So yeah, I would say the communication piece is a little bit trickier, but we went 2 years and didn't really get anything done because we never had a quorum in which to even approve minutes. So if we're open to conversation, I think we can handle it.
Madam Chair.
Keep going.
Also, you talked about the parking fund. So any maintenance fees or money that comes from the fund, would that come to council or would it be at the discretion of the administrator?
Totally council. You have a budget
How
for
about you do it? How's that sound?
Thank you, sir. Yes, we will bring everything to council on the expense side, and it continues to perform very well. You have over $400,000 that's going back into your parks fund because many of our parking lots are on park land. That has really helped the general fund to keep these awesome parks looking as good as they do.
You mentioned parking and fun for Emily, and I'll bet you it is not real fun for you, is it? No. Yeah, no. Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anything else?
Yeah, no, ma'am.
Counselor Scheckler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Have any of the members of the Parking Commission been contacted to see what their thoughts are about dissolving it?
Yes,
And they are?
totally in agreement, because they haven't been able to do anything. There's nothing been too meaty. Again, all these entities that are mentioned in here have been working together so well. The Downtown Association was taking the minutes, and they'd set up in a meeting, and we didn't have a quorum, and we didn't get them approved. And the parking commissioners are all passionate about it. In fact, the chairman is totally supportive of this. Again, it pretty much shows that the energy behind the agendas wasn't enough to draw our commissioners in to even get a quorum for 2 years.
Anything else?
No.
Troy, just to clarify this part, all of the code changes that are in here, I mean, did you have a red line copy of all those changes that you mentioned to the actual ordinance?
Yes, there was a red line. I'm not sure Renata may be able to answer where that is.
Well, this is going to go forward to council anyway, but
Yeah, so the repeal is just removing that entire chapter, so that's not in the code, it repealed. And then, I see what you're saying. Somehow when it got reprinted, it accepted changes. So we will make sure in the council packet, it shows the underlines.
great. So
Sorry
then
about
they'll have the old and the new in front of them. That'll be great. And then further, Troy, all of these things like parking fees, any of the changes, a lot of this stuff that's in here, all of that comes to council anyway because it's part of the ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes, and then any
So-
fee above 5% gets your approval. We bringing you all the fees, even if it is less than a 5% increase. So you are ultimately in control of all the parking decisions anyway.
Right. That's what I wanted to clear up. So the eliminating the commission really doesn't take anything away from council's policy change approval and all of that.
It does
That's all
not.
I had. So we'd be looking for a motion then.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to recommend the council repeal Chapter 2.66 Coeur d'Alene Municipal Code, Parking Commission, and approve the amendments to Municipal Code 4.15.040.
I second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Troy. And so item number 3, our last item on our agenda, is going to be the approval of an MOU with the Downtown Association for a 3-year term and MOU with World Triathlon Corporation for the 2026 Ironman event by Renata.
Thank you. Yes, I'm bringing you 2 items that aren't often brought together, and I will explain to you why we are here today for both of those. So the Downtown Association has had an agreement with us in the past for some of the high-impact events that they host, and one sort of, we call it low-impact, but St. Patrick's Day is pretty fun and exciting too. But May of 2024, we entered into a 2-year agreement with them for the St. Patrick's Day event, Coeur d'Alene Street Fair and Lighting Parade and Fireworks event. So that has now expired. We've had the 2024 and 25 events, and we're looking to enter into new contracts for 26, 27, and 28. They would like to add in the farmers market. That's the only other event that they host that we don't have under this agreement, so we thought it'd be nice to kind of put it all in one place, so they want to add that in. What has happened is Ironman had negotiated their 3-year agreement for 2024, 25, and 26. And in that 2026 event, they chose the June 21st date. They normally would have requested the date of the weekend following, but for some reason they threw in the 21st, which conflicts with the Coeur d'Alene event that traditionally happens over Father's Day weekend. But we didn't have a contract with the Downtown Association for those dates yet, and Ironman had already agreed in their contract to have that date. So the Downtown Association brought it forward, requested that we have their event the same weekend, not the same date as Ironman. And staff discussed this option, and I think like a lot of people initially, we were like, that is going to be too tough. We are not a fan. We can't have all the staff to do all the work. And Emily with the Downtown Association met with Ironman, and they talked together about some ways that they could mitigate some of staff's concerns. So as we talked about what were some of the concerns was our barricades come down and then Ironman barricades come down and they get intermingled and we don't get ours back. So one of the things the street department was pretty insistent on is we'd have Ironman provide all of the barricades for the Coeur d'Alene event. So there will be none of our stuff involved. So if it walks away, it's theirs, not ours. And Ironman agreed to do that. Emily with the Downtown Association and Zach with World Triathlon Corporation sat down and talked about what some of the partnership things they could do. So they're going to send out joint mailings. They'll do some of the road closure stuff together and market and share some of their vendors together. So it's turned into a really symbiotic relationship for them. So Ironman, one of the things that was a problem was the Sherman Avenue and the setup on Sherman Avenue for their finish line. So they've agreed to move their finish line into the park and come off of Sherman Avenue. So their use for the streets really is that Sunday event. The use for Coeur d'Alene is Friday and Saturday. So while it's a lot of people in the area for one weekend, we think we've mitigated all of staffing's requests and things that we needed to have mitigated in order to have both of those events. And that results with the next weekend actually being opened. So we will not have any special events the following weekend. So it actually gives our public safety and our street staff a nice, good break when we have so many things going on during the summer. So to kind of look at the result really is that this Ironman finish line will come in off of Front Avenue and go through the park and end over near the band shell. This will actually open up the streets earlier in the day. And I don't, if you guys have questions regarding that, Todd from Streets is here and he can answer more of the specifics on that. The Downtown Association, we've been working in this contract to push a little bit more of the responsibilities onto them so that we don't have those responsibilities and costs. So they've incurred about $50,000 in costs last year for traffic control for all these events and are estimating about $58,000 in expenses this year for all of those events. Now, kind of before I go into some of the city's fees, I just wanted to remind you that there are some legal restrictions on what we can charge back to events. So we have to make sure that those costs are relative to those events, not above and beyond. So I'm going to bring Katie up to kind of talk about how she established our city costs. And I just wanted to remind you that when we're looking at these costs, these are estimates of overtime. And some of those weekends may have additional events, kind of like the street fair. We have Art on the Green and Taste of Coeur d'Alene. And then like during the St. Patrick's Day event, that's a little earlier on in the day parade. I think it starts at 3 and is done by 3:45, something like that. So it's one of our shorter parades and we kind of get in and get out. But there are people that come down and enjoy St. Patrick's Day weekend in the evenings that cost the police department a little bit more overtime, but we can't really associate that back to the parade. So I will leave you with that to think about as Katie gives you the details.
All right, good afternoon. Going through the costs for some of these events can get a little tricky because you have to take into consideration the different things that are going on. As Renata mentioned, the St. Patrick's Day Parade is an interesting one to look at. And so my methodology here is we looked at the police department, fire department, and the streets department. This is just the overtime costs for those departments. And we want to make sure that we are not including just regular overtime we would have had in on a different, event or day of the month. And so when we're looking at the St. Patrick's Day Parade, that was on a Saturday. So I took the other Saturdays in March and looked at the overtime costs for each of these departments. Came up with an average overtime cost to compare to the day itself as what the cost was. And so the police department, the day of the event, we had $4,808 in overtime. However, the Friday before, the day before, we had 4,263, and so we sort of attributed that to just regular St. Patrick's Day activities in our officers, making sure everybody's being safe. So fire department's a little tricky as well because we have constant staffing as a huge overtime cost that we run into. And what we're seeing that in the past year with our, we've had injuries, absences from in our fire department, and that has caused the constant staffing amounts to increase abnormally. So it's a little hard to pull that back, and so I wouldn't personally include fire department in some of these costs. And then we have the streets department. That's pretty straightforward. Typically, our streets department does not put in hours on the weekend or overtime hours on the weekend. So that was pretty straightforward. So we come up with a cost, a ballpark of $3,000 for St. Patrick's Day Parade, with the caveat that it's likely that major cost from the police department is just related to additional patrols for St. Patrick's Day weekend. If we look at Coeur d'Alene, so this would be a Friday and Saturday that we're comparing to. So the first one for police department, we had a very large expense, June 6th through 7th. I didn't have a minute to verify exactly what was going on that weekend, but I did find that it was Pride in the Park on that Saturday, so it's possible we had more patrols to ensure that was a safe event. And we are looking at an average of 15,000, so that bumped up the average for the weekend up pretty high, which would show us an additional overtime for police department of 23,534. Doing the same thing to our other departments, we came up with a total cost of 25,135. Street fair, another interesting one. So this would be over the course of 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we came up with a cost that we're sort of hesitant to just attribute to the street fair, because that same weekend we have Art on the Green and one other Taste of the Coeur d'Alene. So that's a little tricky to just attribute the cost to street fair. And last, we have the lighting parade, and this is a little easier to tease those costs out of because we don't have much going on in November downtown on Saturdays, or not as much as we normally would in in the summertime. So that one we came in at $78.74.
And I just wanted to point out that Emily from the Downtown Association is also here if you want to speak to her about this. We just took the cost for this agreement off of our current permit fee listing that we have approved by resolution, and added in a 5% annual increase going forward. So with that, we will stand for questions.
So Gabriel.
Here we go again, Madam Chair, thank
will.
you. For Katie, real quick, and I will ask the question, really not look for an answer right now, maybe we can do it later, but constant staffing versus staffing levels for events they're the two completely separate things, because the events do not cut into the amount of coverage we have to have in the city.
And I just want to, I know you will be able to offer your knowledge in this area. It was a little tricky because we do have event pay split out in our accounting system, in our payroll system, but the other part of it too would be there might be individuals who have to work overtime in order to ensure that there's that level of staffing just for the normal shifts. Is that a reasonable thought? No. Okay. Well, I think fire department is pretty safe to say that their event pay costs are pretty minimal when it comes down to that, because I was including all overtime and the constant staffing.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
It's just that, what we have in this city has to be a number. What we do for events is completely above and beyond that, so it doesn't affect the numbers that happen in the city. Also, I think that something that we've been a part of, which I like a lot, is nonprofits versus for-profit agencies when it comes to fees. Is that still? We're a resort city, it kind of costs money to do these things,
Yeah.
right?
We just have a set fee schedule. We don't look at whether it's for-profit or nonprofit. As we meet as our other little subcommittee, when we start talking about fees and special events, I think there's one with staff you and Kiki have been invited to. We're trying to kind of look at what are the type of events and what are the costs to us and what's the best way to divide those costs up. I think we've, over the years, have been increasing kind of steadily, 5%. We had one year we bumped all of the special event costs up 10%, but we're just trying to kind of incrementally bring those up a little higher. It's just a philosophy with how cities want to carve out those fees. Some cities want to bring people down because they don't have the tourism that we have, and so they incentivize it by having a really low cost of having events. Other cities are starting to see the impact of super large events and are starting to try and push more and more of these event costs onto the event sponsors. And in the past, council's been very specific about wanting to have these well-known kind of things that are known for Coeur d'Alene culture, and increasing the fees and pushing off as much of the cost as we can without damaging the events from occurring. So we've been trying to find that balance of sharing costs, basically.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
No questions.
No questions? I've got a few for you, Renata. You mentioned that in this agreement, the market, or was it a Friday art thing that the Downtown Association wanted to add this year?
The farmer's market.
The farmer's market.
So there's a section in here, and unfortunately, we just put in this year's date, but they want it to be all 3 years.
Okay, and did you do any cost analysis to the city for that event?
Yep, the farmer's market is actually one of the super, if we had a category for super low, we have, I think, stashed some barricades and signage with the Downtown Association, and they pulled them out and set them up themselves.
Okay. And then, refresh my memory, because we've talked about this and I don't remember. We had talked about putting a hold on any new major events. Is that still in effect? Did we do that?
We have not, for street closure parade permits, there's the parks events that I think they've kind of put on hold for new large events for parks, based on staffing capabilities, but we pretty much all summer have something going on every weekend. And so with our code, we can have one large and maybe one medium event or low impact events in a different part of town, but we can't have two high events because we just can't manage those. So when those permits come in the door, we kind of analyze where they're at and if there's an open weekend. But as far as that, if they want to come in December and do a fun run, we have lots of available dates.
Great. And so with the Coeur d'Alene Ironman being on the same weekend, I got a couple of questions on that. One is that usually Coeur d'Alene is kind of wrapped up and done by Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yep.
But the Ironman's going to provide barricades because they'll be here the week prior, so they're going to do all the barricades and then move what they need to after Coeur d'Alene's done?
Yeah, so they're gonna come and they call it staging the barricades. So they'll drop them at the corners. Our street department will still come put them in place so that they have the correct traffic control pattern, detours, et cetera. And then, yes, Ironman will just move them in place to where they need them on Lakeside and Front Avenue for race day.
So really, that's the only overlap between these two events, is that barricade moving.
Ironman does do their Ironman Village in the park, and so there'll be park things going on. And with Coeur d'Alene, there's also the silver car auction. Is that right? Silver car auction that happens at Independence Point, but that's a separate organization from the Downtown Association on Saturday. So Friday night will be the car cruise.
Right.
And then Saturday will be the show and shine, where they park the cars and people walk around and look at the cars.
And that auction. And then I guess I was looking at these maps, and I'm wondering why, or what Parks' input was, if all of usually for Ironman, the finish line, the last mile, is where all of the spectators go. So if that all ends up in City Park, is there going to be additional burden to staff for that?
The Parks
Should
Department.
those costs be analyzed this year for what
Parks
they have to
Department
do?
felt, I think because of the Ironman Village, and I don't see Bill here, darn it, I didn't rope him in today. I think they felt like because Ironman Village and everything's already set up over there, it was just a matter of putting up the barricades and creating the chute for the finish line. But Bill Greenwood did not have any concerns about that changeover.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay.
So we'll be looking for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I would make a motion to recommend that council approve the proposed memorandum of understanding with the Downtown Association, DTA, for the 2026, 2027, 2028 parades, and also to approve a proposed memorandum of understanding with the World Triathlon Corporation.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. You did just promote me to a mayor, but
Madam, see, there you go. You're doing such a great job right there.
and that's okay. I'm
You're right
happy
there.
being a chair here.
Thank you.
That'll be great. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that one is going to go to full council as well. And with that, we need a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.